The City of Blackwell, located in Kay County, Oklahoma, stands proudly at the intersection of U.S. Highway 177 and State Highway 11 along Interstate 35. With a population of 7,092 at the 2010 census, Blackwell offers small-town charm that embraces the traditions of the past while boldly carving out an avenue to the future. On May 20th, 2019, the little Oklahoma town's strength and tenacity was tested like it had never been before.
We knew storms were coming that morning, and I just remember from the forecast the night before that they had projected torrential rain, and what he had described as training. It was just lines of storms going over one location over and over and over again, and we could kind of see where we were in the line of fire, but you never really know. And so we were prepared for the storms that morning coming in. The river had been up earlier that month.
Well, as we were monitoring the weather, realized it was going to start flooding, so I reached out to the PD and got as many people together as we could and went door to door on the east side of town, because that's the side that usually floods, and warned everybody that it was coming.
When my staff come to me and say, hey, we're going knocking on doors, we're letting people know that they need to get out and get out now. You know, I knew that things were really ramping up, and that these guys were ready.
You know, it's one thing, especially in today's world with technology, you know, to, hey, send out a text message or, you know, post something on Facebook. Well, not everybody has that technology. So just to get that face-to-face and let the citizens know that we were there in case they needed assistance and that we cared enough to come door to door.
Had a power outage. We were without power for, I think it was 34 hours.
And we were working on it during the day, the storms, and then more lightning and more stuff, but we ended up trimming trees, and everybody calls on the radio and says the whole town went off.
175 2nd Avenue, 10-4. Is that 56K? 56 at this time.
Then, you know, started getting the phone calls and, hey, we're not sure what's happened here. And, you know, then it moved on into night, and still thinking it's not going to be this big of a deal. But in the end, it really did turn out to be a huge thing, and we were without power for about 27 hours for a lot of the city, and then even about 38 or 39, I think, for other parts of it. You know, so knowing that the storms were getting worse and the weather was just horrible, you know, a downpour of torrential rain, thunder and lightning, and then the flooding, you know, started, and my guys are out looking for what the problem is.
We started dispatching, trying to troubleshoot to find out where this problem was, and all of our efforts, we could not find it.
And you know, ultimately we ended up calling in OG&E. We were working with K Electric. We were working with OMPA to try to identify where the problem was. And you know, in the middle of the night, I'm getting phone calls, you know, from Greg Sixkiller letting me know, hey, we've got to go out to an area that we're not even ready to go out to. We think it might be underwater.
The communications that OG&E has through a SCADA system, they can monitor that OG&E substation there at their headquarters, and their communication went down to that sub. So they were unable to make any communication to be able to remotely turn that breaker on and off. So now they've got to try to get to that sub. After a period of time, they was able to get to that sub, kick the breaker on, it would not hold. The town was down again.
And at that point, you know, you're trying to figure out what's the cause of this, and OG&E backed out and said, we're not flipping this switch again. We're not going to do it. You're going to have to get somebody in there. You're going to have to tell them, fix this or that. And I just stood my ground. I said, our guys know what they are doing. Give me a few minutes and let us get this done, and then I need you to try this again.
So Jim went and got his airboat, brought it out there, and myself and staff from OMPA got out on the airboat and troubleshooted our 69 line that we was unable to get to. Meantime, OG&E had brought their crews, some crews up to assist us. They had brought a drone to look at that 69 line, and they were indicating to us that there were some trees in the line that they felt was the problem. Getting in that airboat and running that line out, we determined that there was no trees in that line. It was the angle that they were at that looked like the trees were there. But we've got the same problem, but we've not found it yet. So we decided that through OG&E, with cooperation of OG&E, that we would start isolating all of our substations and all of our 69 switches, and we did that. Then we started closing in our 69 line switches to the substations, and when we finally got to industrial sub, we had a crew there when they were switching that on, and a lightning arrestor blew, a 69 kV lightning arrestor, which is on top of a substation transformer. It blew. Now mind you, these guys and myself, everybody had already visually looked at, there was no indication whatsoever that this arrestor was bad.
You know, usually with something with that high voltage, you see lights in the background, flash of electricity, blah, blah, but there just wasn't any of that with this fault.
Usually you'll have a burnt mark, a crack. The arrestor could have possibly shown signs of heat. There was nothing indicative of a bad arrestor on top of this. Fortunately, those guys being there when they kicked that on, that arrestor blew. All it did was just smoke, and that was it. Kicked it off again. So then we isolated the substation transformer, got a hold of OG&E. OG&E says, okay, we got a game plan going. We're going to start closing all these substation transformers in. And we did that, and when we kick one in, we've got to wait a little while before we kick another one in. So it was a lot of time involved in being able to get the circuits back up. But over a period of time, we was able to do that.
So when we finally flipped on the power switch and everybody was able to get power through most of the town, there were just some places on the outlying areas that didn't get that. It was so rewarding because my phone I was getting texts and all of that saying, we've got power, we've got power. You know, and I knew that our guys had come through.
Those guys worked those long hours with no rest and not going home and trying to get any rest. They were very adamant that many times I say, hey, we need to kick it back a little bit. Let's get our minds together. Let's rest a little bit. Hey, I'm good. We still need to get over here and they're out there. They're going. But that's just not the only storm they do that. They do this every storm. You can't get them to stop. It's a challenge for these guys. They're dedicated, they're committed, and you can't stop them. And they don't want to stop. The power's off. And I'm very grateful I got them.
The call came in about 9 o'clock to me and was informed that they had paged another department and hadn't got any response. So we responded to look for Larry Larimore. And when I got on scene, their county deputy was already there in the area. We weren't able to travel any further south towards Blackwell. The furthest we could get was Dry Road, which is 4 miles north of Blackwell. And the county deputy had used their resources to ping the phone, and it was in that area. It was the last time it had been on, I guess you could say. So we started in that area.
The rescue efforts that were spearheaded by the fire chief, Chief Hannabrink, you can't really put that into words. We can sit here and tell you 2 days looking. I mean, and most people will be like, oh, you spent 2 days. That man spent every minute that he possibly could, along with others, you know, from the fire department, police department, mutual aid. But he spearheaded that on a mission, you know, to locate that individual.
I called for air evac out of Ponca, and they did a flyby for us, just looking for the vehicle. Weren't able to find it. We used some local resources that had some airboats, and we used those resources looking for him and was unable to locate him. I contacted OHP, told them what we had, and they deployed their dive team and the rescue boats. And we searched for basically from sun up to sundown for 2 days. The second day that he was missing, we located where his truck was. The water level had dropped a little bit, and one of the troopers noticed an oil slick on the water. Just happened to be looking in the right spot, and the dive team went under the bridge, located the truck, so we extricated the truck that night, hoping he was still with the truck, but he wasn't. Then the third day is when OHP recovery team found him and brought him back. Once it was all said and done, I realized as a fire chief, we don't have time to wait on teams that come from other towns. It takes them 2 hours to mobilize. By the time they get here, it's too late, more than likely. So I partnered with Tonkwall and Newkirk, and we were trying to come up with funding to purchase a boat for the K County. And Phillips 66, they partnered with the City of Blackwell and wrote a grant through them and received a grant for the funding of the whole boat, which was a blessing. And the trailer's named in Larry Larimore's memory, and then it's K County Rescue.
You know, it doesn't matter what goes on and who it affects. That community steps up, and it doesn't matter what happens. We have people coming out of the woodwork, either behind the scenes, because you know they just want to help, but they don't want their name out there, to people that just walk up and tell you how much they appreciate you. I've been doing it a long time, and I can't give you a bad instance where our community is not supporting what we're trying to do.